Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Monday, July 8th, 2024. Hope you're having an awesome summer. And today we've got Conan 244, which is a news story by Roy Thomas. I do suspect what I had suspected earlier. You know, it's interesting reading all of these. I've got like 30 more here before we get to the end of my Conan stack. I'm beginning to understand that they have a different set of rules than your regular television show / novel when it comes to writing. What these guys are looking for, and this is why I persist in my belief that this is being plotted by the artist and an editor, probably an assistant editor, over a lunch, maybe a half an hour or an hour, and then the artist goes home and draws for 20 days, 22 days, and sends it back in, and Roy Thomas has to put it together. And I also think that there's just not a lot of preconception going on, especially not in the last 3-issue series. They could have layered that stuff. They could have layered the information in so that it didn't all come out in the last 8 pages. It took 8 pages to solve the last issue, which I have right here. It took like 6 or 8 pages to solve this. They had to spend a whole bunch of time, and every line was crucial in this one to make up for all the confusing nonsense that had happened. Roy Thomas did it. He did it perfectly, but it starts, look at where it starts. Okay, so here we have, this is kind of funny. Once they start the wrap up, right, which is here, this is where they start the wrap up. In the middle of the issue, Conan gets in a fight with the demon. This is the peak threat, right? Conan's separated from Red Sonja. He kills the demon, has to come back. He kills the wizard, wakes up Red Sonja, kills the wizard. The wizard comes back alive because of the god demon, so the wizard is repossessed, like necromancy, right? So that's 2 threads, 3 threads solved. You have the demon, Conan slays and escapes his portal, waking up Red Sonja, killing this new priest. The new demon takes the priest's body and zombie fights him, so they have to kill him there. Then we get all the demons who were in the beginning. Now this is probably still the artist and the editor, the assistant editor plotting. But all through this, Roy Thomas is writing dialogue that solves all this nonsense until we get here to the end. Now this is yesterday's book, so we haven't even gotten into today's. He then has to spend pages with the priest, this priest who was going to marry them. And it all comes out that he'd hired Red Sonja to kill this guy Elron. All of this gets solved in the final moments of what would be a play or a TV show. It's like Columbo having to go back through the entire episode and not having left any breadcrumbs in to clue in the audience. The same thing happens here. This is a set of rules for the artist. Give me action on every page. When something dries out, give me something new, and don't ever let it be boring. Like, nothing is connected. It's constantly new threats. And we kind of, in this book, we go through the whole list of all... Remember earlier, I don't know if you guys probably don't remember, I can't imagine anyone's watching these more than a couple of them before moving on to other channels. A few issues back, I had complained that Conan has a very thin cast of supporting characters. It's clear that this was also an issue to the writers because they've done a lot to do recurring characters, but the recurring characters are all two-dimensional. And Conan doesn't have a dilemma. Here's my big complaint with this. The way this starts out, yeah, okay, they have these fire geysers, and Red Sonja's still with Conan, and they're marching through a sort of a wilderness with these geysers. But their dilemma is, which mercenary army should they go fight for? They could be hungry, they could be broke, they could want to separate. There's a million different stories that you could have started from right here. They could have come to a village that is, beset by whatever. They could have come to a haunted forest. What they do is they ride in between 2 armies and get attacked by an army. First, they have to deal with these fire geysers, and then they get attacked by an army. We have a Ninja Turtles. ad here, which is kind of cool. Ninja Turtles are awesome, especially the early issues. Fucking incredible. Conan and Red Sonja fight off this army. Now, Red Sonja's going to sleep with whatever guy can beat her, right? Which is... Red Sonja as a character is two-dimensional. She doesn't grow, she doesn't develop, she's a cardboard cutout. Here the army subdues them easily, knocks them both out, makes them captives, takes them back to their camp, where they're going to question them about the location of the other army. Roy Thomas really had his work cut out for him here. I don't think he had anything to do with this story until it arrived fully penciled on his desk. That's a terrible thing to say, but if he is responsible for this, he was incredibly burnt out because all the talent and skill that was on display in the first 100 issues of this series, all of that is gone. Here they get thrown into a cave prison that these soldiers happened to have stumbled upon where they set up camp. So it's not a fortress like the Romans built. It's not a wooden fortress with earthworks and wooden ramparts. This is some sort of mountain cave that these Bryanthians or Carthaginians have used as a prison, and Zula is inside the cave, one of Conan's good friends. Together, they create a ruse and call the guards to the gate where they, even before that, right? So here's Zula and Conan. Zula shows them that he found an escape tunnel in the cave, but he hadn't taken it. And he shows Conan and Sonja a way out. But before they go, they need to capture the guards' swords. So this is just a retarded episode. They find there's a corpse inside. There's a corpse up here. You can see there's a corpse inside the dungeon with them. And Conan and Red Sonja pretend to be having a fight with the corpse so that Zula can attack the guards and steal their swords. Although one of Zula's arms is white here. And in the next panel, we see that Conan is nowhere near the gate. So unfortunately, that couldn't have been understood by the colorist until the dialogue balloons were in, apparently. So now they go down into these tunnels. They got a torch. Somehow the swords are missing. But they have them. They're on their hips, right? They're just not carrying them. But they're going to need them to fight the Edward Bulwer Lytton's The Coming Race, which make another appearance in this book. Conan actually knows them because he fought with them in a previous episode, which is listed here. I think I have some of that story. Then we get the obligatory flashback where Red Sonja explains some drama where Conan and she had to... she explains the backstory of how they know the Coming Race people. So this was in the early Conans. And we get Conan fighting an octopus, which looks cool. Oh, and this is awesome. I think this is McFarlane. You can really tell by the Mary Jane up here. She looks just like Wanda in Spawn. McFarlane is probably one of the greatest artists of all time. I love the way they draw Red Sonja. I just don't like her character. I'm not a big fan of her hair either. But I love the way they draw her body in the steel bikini. And I know I was holding that a little bit over to the side, so... because I hadn't really looked at this page yet. So here they're fighting the flying demons who allow a number of themselves to be killed and then carry Conan, Red Sonja, and Zula off without biting them or abusing them in any way. And they bring them to... So Conan talks to them about how they used to be working for so-and-so, but he killed them, so now they're free, so why are they hassling him? And they're like, we have a new boss. Here's the one where he explains, we have a new boss, and we're going to introduce you to him. So now the armies that had beaten Red Sonja and could have, gang raped her, which is really what her character wants. In order to sleep with her, you have to rape her, essentially. So Red Sonja and Conan are now down here facing a vampire There's been no mention of vampires. The armies weren't plagued by vampires. They could have done a village that was plagued by vampires. So my point is, they're facing a boss, but there's been no lead up to a boss. And they're going to have to fight a boss, but the boss has no henchmen or This is god awful. This is god awful writing. And I was sitting here thinking about this morning, and led me to a few other things. Houston is now drenched in rain, so I was watching some of the footage, and it reminded me of some of the stuff that I've seen recently that had a lot of rain in it, that really sets the tone for a story, specifically that Shogun show. I mean, I know Japan gets a lot of rain. There was something else I saw, though, and I'm spacing on what it was. Oh, The Prestige. Christopher Nolan's The Prestige, set in Victorian London. I think making that gray and dingy and dirty was a brilliant choice. Whereas for Shogun, they could have had some sunny days, you know. Shogun didn't need to have that Batman vibe. But Christopher Nolan, Prestige, of course, it's going to have that dark, gritty vibe. And that made me think of another film that I really, really, really loved. Akira Kurosawa's After the Rain. Now, this was made posthumously. I think it was his last slated film before he passed away. And they just continued producing it without him, which it stars Toshiro Mifune's son. He's not the star, he's a supporting character, but it's Toshiro Mifune's son, and he walks and talks just like him. It's really kind of awesome to see. He's a shorter version of him. He's not quite so lanky. He has that sort of compact Japanese body, but the way he moves is so Shogun Daimyo. It's an awesome movie. And the movie itself, I was thinking about the difference between Conan and more sort of athletic characters. I was thinking about how I mentioned the other day in a quote on someone else's, or not a quote, but a comment on someone else's video about Ghost Dog, that Ghost Dog is not like your typical martial artist superhero. Forrest Whitaker, you know, he's like pudgy, fat, he had a weird personality. But that's who the guys who go to martial arts school mostly are. We are mostly Spurs, because we were uncoordinated for whatever reason. The really gifted athletes are all playing football and basketball and baseball. So in martial arts schools, you mostly find, you know, unathletic kids. It's like remedial school for wannabe athletes, for adults. It's like makeup school. It's like summer school for non-athletic kids. That's what martial arts school is. And After the Rain, of course, all the samurai stuff, they do samurai, you know, sword fighting, kendo, for fun. And in this movie, the main character was never a super athletic guy, but he got into a scam where you could go challenge martial arts masters at different schools and get beaten by them, and then, you know, hang out with the class and they would feed you, and you could basically have lunch and then go to the next town and do it again. You would have to get your ass beat with a wooden sword, which would suck. But apparently there was a group of people doing this. And one of the things that you could, if you timed it right, you could surrender before the master beat you. And so this guy, this main character, discovered sort of an acting scam, like a no play, how you handle your emotions, your facial features. He never really wanted to fight anyone, but he discovered how to project an air of confidence while facing these masters. And so one master surrendered to him. And he sort of got this reputation for being really good. And then he became really good, and he learned with this master. This master taught him everything. He stayed at this school for a while and became this master's like prize student. And he confessed to him that he didn't know how to fight, that all he knew how to do was this play acting. And he was honest and sincere, and so this master taught him how to fight. And then that master passed away and whatever, he couldn't stay there for whatever reason. And so he was going through Japan looking for a new place, a new daimyo, a new, you know, not castle, but a new family, a new, what would be the equivalent of a family, a samurai family to stay at and work at. And when he came to this one where Toshiro Mifune's son was in charge, they had, a series of encounters. It is very much sort of, it could totally be a Conan story. It would be a perfect Conan story. And the dilemma of the main character was he and his wife was with him. He had to go look for a home and find a home, and you're not allowed to fight for money. The samurai really looked down on that. If you're going to dojo and fighting for money, you could never get hired to work at a samurai. You could never be taken on as a vassal. And he had been doing this, but he'd been sharing the money with the other people around. He was basically an indigent, and he'd been sharing the money with the other indigents wherever he went, but he had this carriage and the bearing of nobility, because that's essentially what samurai were. So it'd kind of be like a knight in medieval, it'd be like, the medieval knights, King Arthur and the Round Table, where you're a wealthy knight, you have a horse and armor and a sword, but no real cash and no land. So you could, go and fight for any village with any band of, like if a band of outlaws are on the edge of town, you could go run them out of town and have adventures. It's sort of what cowboys did, Cowboys were the equivalent of that in the Old West. And the Conan stories are really easy to do that way. But the characters in this one don't have any goals. They're talking about maybe going to join another mercenary army. The artist isn't concerned with the character goals. The artist is plotting the story, and all he's concerned with is putting action and motion on the page and bringing in new threat anytime he needs to do so. And that leaves it to the author, the writer, to then tie these beads, these disparate beads together and string them together as though they were a story. When they're really not. They're a series of individual scenes. I'm not complaining about it. I don't want this channel to be about complaining. This channel is about educating myself, not necessarily you guys. I am learning for myself, because you'll notice a lot of the same mistakes are present in my comic here, posted as a link down below. It's the first link. It's a PDF, so you can check it out. Ashley Fox, The Last Valkyrie. Valeria is a main character in this. Valeria from Conan. She's working as a Valkyrie for Odin, and she has to go around like Bill and Ted and find warriors worthy of helping her. And so that's what this story is about. Ashley is dead. Ashley's been killed a bunch of times, and she's technically dead, so she is eligible to work as a Valkyrie. And that's what this story is about. And I loved writing it. I loved working with my friend from animation school on this. This is all his art. I wrote it. This is his art, and this is also his art. You can check out audiobooks. We have 2 of them here on YouTube, The Legend of Ashley Fox and The Legacy of a Mad Scientist. The mad scientist being her father. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, all these elections, all this drama. Everyone's worried, but complaining about it doesn't help. So really, honestly, guys, the most important thing is to watch your 6, be prepared. Don't leave your self-protection to somebody else. Always be ready to do whatever you have to do to, protect yourself and the people around you. Like, it's not just about you. You could be stuck somewhere where you are in a situation where you have to help someone. I read on Daily Stormer today, they do Mimetic Monday. So they have a whole bunch of memes. Andrew Anglin posts his favorite memes on dailystormer. I don't remember what it is. And I can't put the link in the description because it won't let me post it. You're just going to go to uns.com. There's always articles by Andrew Anglin on Ron Unz's site. And Ron Unz is Jewish, which is interesting. So you can go out there, and at the bottom of any of Andrew's articles will be a link to the Daily Stormer. So that's a great way to find him. One of the Mimetic Mondays was I think it was in there, might have been on Twitter/X, was a story about how Donald Trump stopped someone in the 80s, stopped a mugging in the 80s of a guy with a baseball bat. Some guy was beating some dude with a baseball bat, and Trump asked his limo driver to pull over, and he got out, and he said, "Hey, knock it off. You're hitting that guy." He goes, and the guy said to him, "I'm not doing anything wrong." And he says, "You're beating a guy with a baseball bat. Knock it off." And the guy knew who Trump was, and that's some influence, right? Like, I'm not a big Trump fan. I love that he's pro-white. I love that the Jews and everyone else are terrified by Trump because he's a white man. That's the only thing I have in common with him. He's completely owned by one half of the Jews, at least one half of the Jews. The other half hate him. But, I say don't vote. Don't participate in politics. Find a way to get out of paying taxes. Become an independent contractor. Become incorporated. Do whatever you can. Become ungovernable. So, yeah. I'm here for comics. I love comics. I love literature. I'm a fiction addict. It got me through a lot of tough times in my life. And my recommendation for you guys today is Akira Kurosawa's After the Rain, posthumously. And of course, my stuff. My recommendation is my novels. They're awesome. All right, see you guys.